Hey everyone, I'm Majiin and welcome in to World Tour Weekly, your one-stop shop for all competitive Flesh and Blood news. We had a bit of a more exciting weekend with two different callings being streamed in Auckland, one of them being the first Classic Constructed event with Mastery Pack Guardian Legal. During the events, we also got some cool spoiler cards that are shown from the upcoming set and upcoming Armory decks, but we'll go into that a little bit later. First up, let's take a look at the events over in Auckland and see who our new champions are in today's weekend winners. We had two separate callings at this event, so for simplicity's sake, moving forward, I'm going to call them the Welcome to Wraith calling and the Classic Constructed calling. The Welcome to Wraith calling was a ton of fun to watch. I started Flesh and Blood after Welcome to Wraith Limited was already done, so it was cool to get this throwback to see how Flesh and Blood started out. As fun as it was for me though, I have to imagine it was even more fun for the competitors, as Day 2 wasn't just Welcome to Wraith Draft, it was Welcome to Wraith Alpha Draft. The stream was filled with some super close games and tons of great moments, but in the end, Logan Boyd took it down with their 1-of-1 Dorinthia deck. Jacob Clemens ended up losing in the finals, which should give him a pretty big bump in the Player of the Year race, putting him a little bit more ahead of his competition in the Europe region. Flipping over to the Classic Constructed calling, we had a pretty good mix of decks make it into the top 8. Some of those games ended rather explosively, with Amelia playing Kano and absolutely blasting Alexander Vor out of his boots on turn 1. It was a pretty sick Aether Flare, double Sonic Boom, double Blazing Aether play for lethal. But in the end, it wasn't Kano who held the crown, it was Dash.io piloted to perfection by CYK Lionel. Let's shift over to the Battle Hardened, which was Arcane Rising Limited. Thomas Bailey Galbraith, who drafted Dash in the top 8, beat out Sam Sutherland's Kano in the grand finals. Auckland wasn't the only event though, as Etienne Barriolet took down Battle-Hardened Lucerne with Verdant's Thorn of the Rose. Congratulations again to all of our weekend winners. Now that Mastery Pack Guardian has hit the playing field, let's zoom into the Classic Constructed tournament to see how the format's adjusted since Pro Tour Singapore in this week's Metagame Minute. The day 1 meta for the event was both what you would have expected and also slightly different at the same time. Slippy and Gravy were most represented, surprising nobody, but Ira was the third most represented, which at the very least surprised me. Perhaps Shoma's calling win in Singapore with the Ninja Hero brought her to the attention of a lot more players than before. It could also be that builds for her are finalizing after her Armory Deck release, and so she's considered more viable than she has been previously. Whatever the reason is, it seems like she more or less took Syndra's spot as a top contender with a strong Gravy matchup for this tournament. I'm excited to see if this is an overall trend or just something that happened for this event specifically. Dash.io also seems to be picking up a little bit in popularity, and as I mentioned earlier, actually won the entire event. The Day 2 conversion rates tell an interesting story, with 100% of Dory, Florian, and Kano players making the cut, even if there was only 4 of them total. Slippy and Gravy's conversion rate is lower than I expected, while Verdant's is shockingly high at 67%. Keep in mind that the sample size for this event is smaller than something you would see at like a Pro Tour, so the conversion rates can be highly swung based on only a couple of players' variants. Taking a look at the top 8 bracket, it's pretty diversified with 1 copy of Kano, 1 Fang, 2 Slippy, 1 Acilio, 1 Dio, 1 Gravy, and 1 Prism. It's always fun for me to see Wizard heroes doing well, but CYK Lionel proved the power of the Mechanologist hero with some insane turns and took down the entire event. Now, looking ahead to the future, we have both calling Kansas City and Battle Hardened Perth this upcoming weekend. Both of these events are going to be Classic Constructed. Now, if Mastery Pack Guardian is going to make a decently large impact on the meta on its own merit, I expect these are the events where we would start to see that happening. My guess though is that it's going to more or less stay exactly the same, with maybe a small uptick in Guardian heroes like Victor and, well, now Valda. I don't really expect Jarl's representation to rise too much with the Mastery Pack Guardian cards. It doesn't really seem like they slot into his game plan as neatly. I think that if Guardian is going to have its time in the sun again somewhat recently, it's going to be because of a combination of Mastery Pack Guardian and the new Super Slam support coming out. I wouldn't even be surprised if Pleiades becomes the new top dog of the class. Guardian players aren't the only people who have something to look forward to in the upcoming set though, considering we have 31 expansion slot cards coming in Super Slam. We already even got the first couple revealed this past weekend. The first of the two is another Riptide Specialization. At this rate, the entire deck is going to be Riptide Specializations, 3 copies of Command & Conquer, and 3 copies of Codex of Frailty in a year or two. This one though is probably my favorite that the hero has ever gotten, and it's called Take the Bait. It's a red 3-block 0-cost action that says search your deck for a card, shuffle your deck, and then place the card on top. Create a bait token under your opponent's control. Go again. The bait token reads that you can't play or activate cards that you own. Action, destroy this when the combat chain link resolves. Attack. Once per turn attack reaction, 0 cost. This gains +1 and go again. Now, this card's obviously a little bit weird, so let's break down why it works the way that it does. Essentially, this card lets you tutor any trap that you want. You can technically tutor any card, but the trap part is going to make sense here in a second. That's because with a bait token under their control, your opponent won't be able to do anything besides activate the bait token. This has them attacking with a 0-power aura with no go again. Want to give it go again? You can do that as an attack reaction for free. It even gives it +1. Doing this allows your opponent to unlock the rest of the cards in their hand since the bait token will be destroyed once the chain link resolves. The problem is that the bait token activates every single trap card that Riptide plays. It has attack greater than its base, go again, and it activates an attack reaction. So they're kind of between a rock and a hard place. Activate the bait token to give it go again, and you walk right into the collapsing trap that the Riptide player put on top of their deck. Riptide doesn't really have to grab a trap though. They could just as easily grab a powerhouse card like Command and Conquer or Codex of Frailty. This would be especially effective if they think their opponent is just going to activate the bait, not use the attack reaction, and then just pass, making it kind of an interesting mind game of sorts. Definitely a very cool and unique card, one that I am not looking forward to have being cast against me. Speaking of cards that I am absolutely not looking forward to having cast against me, next up is Casai Specialization, Blood Follows Blade. A yellow 3-block 0-cost attack reaction that says target sword gains go again. If this sword hits, create a Centauri Sellsword token. Okay, first of all, I want to point out that this says hits, not hits a hero. And with Gravy Bones still being very highly represented, this is pretty relevant. This card seems crazy strong. I play a lot of Wizard, and one of the biggest weaknesses in the Kasai matchup is if she manages to make a lot of Centauri Sellsword tokens early in the game. This card makes every first sword swing of the turn a possible ally creating on hit. Let's just walk through what a medium turn with this card would look like. Kasai pitches a blue and swings for 2 with her saber. I, being an astute player, do not block this because it's very likely that she'll play an attack reaction that gives go again and pumps the next weapon swing, and I'd rather block that instead. Kasai plays Blood Follows Blade. It hits, creating a Centauri Sellsword token. She swings the Sellsword with 1 resource. Then, since it has go again because its condition has been met, she uses her last resource to swing her other saber. That was a 2-card 7-point swing, except it's actually 8 points because it removes a counter from her Valiant Dynamo, allowing it to block again. Except it's actually more than that because the ally is still on the board. She gets to play 3 of these. This card is going to live rent-free in my head every single time Kasai swings her first sword of the turn. I am terrified of this card. These aren't the only spoilers that we got this weekend though. We also got a sneak peek at Armory Deck Arachne and Armory Deck Rhinar. Armory Deck Arachne had a fun little chaotic attack action in the form of Meat Madness, a red 3-block, 3-power, 0-cost attack action card that says Stealth. When this hits a hero, choose 1 at random. They choose a card from their hand and banish it. They choose a card from their arsenal and banish it, or banish the top of their deck. I see this card being pretty swingy, so it's going to be interesting to see if it takes the spot of any of the more staple stealth attacks that are currently in the Slippy and Marionette lists. The Armory Rhinar deck gave us exactly what Brute players have been asking for like a couple years now. 1 more blue 6-power attack. It comes in the form of Alpha Instinct, a blue 3-cost 0-block 6-power Rhinar specialization that says when this is discarded to beat chest, create a might token. Beat Chest, if you'll remember, is a mechanic introduced back in Heavy Hitters with cards like Assault and Battery and Bonebreaker Bellow. Maybe we'll see this Armory deck fleshing out that mechanic a little bit more, only time will tell. But until that time, make sure that you check out the Calling Kansas City live stream for more great games and possibly more spoilers. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Majiin, and I'll see you next time on World Tour Weekly.